introduce you. Welcome to the wardrobe. This is the Who You Know podcast. I'm Rylan Deemer.
And I'm Elisa Wildy.
And today we have a very special guest joining us. Friend, co-worker, Katie Daniels. We're so happy to have you here.
Thanks. I'm excited to be on.
Also, we tried something new today, which I was pretty excited to give a shot. I don't know how it turned out because we haven't talked about it. We saved it for you all at home. But before we started recording, we did a brief meditation. And I'm really curious what your experience was of that.
So you asked us to notice ourselves before and after. And I feel like I noticed two big things for me is my shoulders were really sore after, but my mind, my head felt clear, like I was congested before, but then wasn't. I don't know.
Mentally clear.
Yeah. Yep.
The best way I can describe it is I felt heavy, but in a good way, almost like I was on a cloud.
Heavy on a cloud.
Lit.
You might need to explain
maybe
that.
Light is a better word. Maybe light is a better word. But very calm, very relieved, very relaxed.
Did you feel grounded?
Yes.
Is that? Okay.
Yes.
Grounded
That actually is the perfect descriptor.
Okay.
Grounded.
Yeah. But yeah, I always have shoulder tension. And so then I really noticed it because we were holding our hand up here. But during it, I think I was had these skeptical feelings of because one of my nostrils, oh, this is so hard to explain because you didn't do it with us, but we breathed in one nostril, let it out the other, breathed in, let it out the other. And so one of my nostrils is more congested than the other. And so the whole time I'm I feel like I'm not getting enough air. What am I going to feel like after this? Which I'm not supposed to be having these feelings, but I did during.
Sure.
But
no, that's fine.
So I was surprised when I opened my eyes and I was oh, I do feel different.
Yeah. And I think it becomes more effective over time as some of those growing pains or whatever kind of get worked out with repetition of the practice. But yeah, I really enjoy teaching that one. I've taught it a few times at this point because it's simple, it's quick. I think we probably only spent 3 minutes actually doing the meditation. Mm-hmm. It's also a little goofy because like Elisa was saying, you use your hand for part of the meditation and you actually plug one nostril, breathe in, and then switch which nostril you have plugged and breathe out. I like what you said about how you felt skeptical during it, but even with that skepticism afterward, you still felt some kind of difference.
Yeah.
And I the same thing that you both felt in some way, feeling grounded afterward, or feeling clear-headed.
Yeah.
I get that feeling too. For me, it feels almost like a confidence or a self-assuredness that I just kind of come out of that meditation with, and
so
really enjoy it.
How often do you do that one?
So that one I practiced for a couple weeks before I moved on to the next stage of that meditation.
Yeah.
So the next stage of that, you kind of get rid of the hand operation of the nostrils and you just breathe in on your own, focusing on the sensation in one nostril and then focusing on the other nostril as you exhale. So you learn how to focus your attention. You're still breathing in through both and out through both, but you're able to really fine-tune the focus of your attention to one side or the other and experience only the sensation on that side.
So how long do you think it took for you to get to a point where you stopped letting outside thoughts creep into your meditation? Does that make sense?
That still happens.
Okay.
I've been meditating for years, and that's still a frequent occurrence.
Okay.
And I'd say that almost in some ways, it kind of is just a part of meditation. When I started meditating, I used to kind of beat myself up when I'd get distracted and I'd be thinking about other things, or I'd start the meditation and a third of the way through, I would just be on some random train of thought. But, you just keep recentering on the meditation, trying to get back into it. And what that teaches you is that you can make mistakes and forgive yourself and just move on. So like you're actually flexing the part of your mind that can forgive yourself for making mistakes. So that's like one of the things that you get from meditation. Like those of you at home who really struggle with like your thoughts kind of spinning out of control anytime that you've tried to focus on something, meditation can really help with that, because you stop like stressing yourself out about it. You start being compassionate toward yourself. Those kinds
And
of things.
I have done some meditations through like the Headspace app, and I remember one of the things it said on there during a meditation was even the ability to recognize like mid-meditation that your thoughts are wandering is like a win.
Yeah, big time.
Like it's that kind of signals that you're like tuned into the meditation process, that you can recognize maybe that your thoughts are wandering. And
Yeah.
that was kind of an interesting perspective that made me feel a little better about the process.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I find myself wandering thoughts during anything, not like just meditation. So like even when I'm sitting in a meeting and I'm like, oh my God, what was the last sentence that person just said? I don't even know. What was I thinking about? And then I like focus myself back in. And that's one reason I wanted to get better at doing meditation this year, was to help focus my thoughts easier. But
yeah, and I like the one that I taught today because it does consume a lot of your attention, because you're operating the nostrils manually, and so you don't typically have much left over beyond that.
I was surprised because when you said that, I was like, oh, he doesn't know how my brain works. Like it's always on like thoughts, thinking about 100 things at once. But while I was doing it, yeah, I was literally focusing on breathing in and breathing out, trying to get enough air.
Yeah, so I think a lot of modern meditation practice, at least in the US, tends to be like mindfulness kind of stuff. But there's such a broad variety of meditative practices, and some of them work well for some people and some of them don't, and it's really a learning process to figure out which meditation's kind of right for you at any point in your life.
Yeah. So
anyway.
this week was Valentine's Day. Yeah, that was this week.
Oh,
so
happy Valentine's
Day.
Day. That's right.
Happy Valentine's Day to you guys.
What's that this week?
It was Monday.
Oh, but I guess
so like
when
it'll
this
be like
episode
2 weeks
releases,
ago.
Yeah.
But you know, every day could be Valentine's Day. Celebrate it again today.
Also, I love everyone who's watching this episode right now.
Why?
With all of my heart.
I was like, why do you love them?
But I don't love the people that are just listening. I like them.
Yeah, so I feel like we probably all celebrated Valentine's Day one way or another. Did you?
Yes.
What did you do?
TJ and I went to our favorite Indian restaurant.
We were just talking about this.
Yep.
Wait, is it? Well, you don't need to say it, but
yes,
it's the place we know.
Yes, the place we know and love, yes. And TJ and I have become very close with the owners, which is kind of cool. They opened like almost exactly 2 years ago today. Almost exactly. So we've kind of like grown to know them, because we started doing it mid-COVID when takeout was a thing, and we've kept going almost weekly, sometimes like twice a week.
That's amazing.
More than we should. But yeah, so he made a reservation there. We went there. We got each other like some small gifts. I framed his FSA diploma for him.
Oh.
Yes, so that will be hanging on his wall in his office.
Congratulations, TJ.
Yes. And then he got me like a little hiking backpack thing. So for when we go hiking, it holds like water. It's like a Camelback backpack, and then I can put my phone in it.
Yeah.
But funny story, I actually discovered what he got me before he got me it, which was kind of disappointing for him.
Did you keep it a secret from him until you got it?
Okay, so until he started talking about it, and then I was like, I feel too bad, I have to tell you. But he wrote it on his notepad in his office. And for those of you who know me, you know that I'm like pretty psycho about like keeping things clean and organized. So I found a note like when I was cleaning his office up, and it said like, buy this for Katie for Valentine's Day. And I was like, TJ, you could have hit it a little better. But yeah, so that's my Valentine's Day story.
So that's really cool. How important is it to you to like have that day to like celebrate love?
I think it's important. Like, I would probably be insulted if he didn't do something. But something unique about TJ is, like, he doesn't like to do, like, stereotypical, like, things. For example, he doesn't like to buy flowers on Valentine's Day. Like, he would rather buy flowers on, like, a random day and surprise me. So he's maybe, like, a little less, like, traditionally romantic. But because he knows that it's important to me and, like, I value that kind of stuff, he kind of follows through with, like, the practicing traditions.
Yeah. I like it. And, like, on Valentine's Day, we didn't have reservations till the day after. So on Valentine's Day, we made dinner together, and we, like, never do that. And so it felt like a special day. And then Dan was like, well, we should do it more often. And I'm like, I don't know, though, because then it wouldn't feel as special.
Like, nah.
Yeah, I was like, it, like, took longer than usual because we're just, like, taking our time because it's our, like, way of celebrating. But, like, if we did that every night, yeah, it just wouldn't feel as special. So I was like, nah, it was, like, a good time to do it.
Yeah.
And then I said, we should have a Valentine's week next year because I liked it.
No week of celebration.
One-on-one.
What did you make?
It was like, so we just started subscribing to HelloFresh. So it was our very first meal we cooked, and it was like a spinach ricotta.
They are not sponsoring
ravioli.
this podcast.
I don't even know if I like it yet. So, but I mean, I liked it this week so far. But it was, it was a pasta dish. But like, I could have chosen from 3 meals, so I tried to choose the one that was like more Valentine's Day.
Yeah, Chen and I went out to a steakhouse on Valentine's Day, but we like waited too long to try to find a reservation. So it was like the only steakhouse that still had seats available. And when we got seated, we were seated right next to friend of the show, Steven Zittner, and his fiance.
Gosh.
And so, yeah, that was really cool. We were like at the tables next to each other, so we had to like interact a bit. But what I thought was like really entertaining or interesting maybe is just like the different ways that like me and Chen interact versus like Steven and his fiance. Like they were like, you know, showing each other like videos on their phones and like laughing about it. Chen and I were like career strategizing and like
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was there's like 2 totally different like ways of like being a couple together, and I thought that was super cool, like seeing the difference in just how we are.
I think it'd be intimidating to sit next to people I knew on a Valentine's Day dinner.
I do too.
It was interesting. I think both tables like the volume of our conversations kind of dropped a bit.
That's good. I did like the place where we had our reservations. They have booths that like block you off from everyone. I was like, yes, I don't have to see anyone else.
I love high back chairs. I love booths. I love the cat using the litter box right next to us during recording.
That's a first, I think.
Yeah. She's feeling really comfortable.
Yeah.
So, like, what was your conversations? I can't even say this. My words are not coming out.
We're professionals.
What was your conversation like on Valentine's Day?
It's funny you say that because we're like at the point where we're like, sometimes we go out and it's like, what do we talk about? Because we like talk so much and spend so much time together. And while we were there, one of the owners who works as like a waitress, she kept coming up to our table to talk to us about various things. And then at the end of our dinner, she apologized for like hijacking our Valentine's Day date.
Yeah.
And TJ made a comment like, oh, it's okay. Like this isn't like super special to us anymore because we've been dating for however many years. Yeah. So it's funny. But we talk about work a lot. There's a lot of that. Yeah. A lot of like me just spewing on about random things I'm stressed about and him listening. And then
well, yeah, I was wondering if it was like very like work, like the work you do focused, or like people at work focused, because like you always have to talk about the people you work with.
There's some people. There's a lot of like work we do too.
Yeah.
So I recently transitioned into a new role, which is a role that a product that TJ has some experience on. So we're kind of like feeding off of each other there. Like he's like, have you done this yet? So it's nerdy, but it works.
Yeah. It's nice.
Mm-hmm.
With dating a coworker, also an actuary, at this, like, there's a lot involved with that. How long did it take before you like told the company like, oh, we're a couple now, or is it like out right away?
Or did you tell?
Yeah.
Yeah, is this a secret? Is this
No, yeah, no one knows. Never like formally disclosed it. I don't know if you're supposed to do that.
You don't. I read the handbook. You do not have to.
Okay.
Under most circumstances.
Okay. But I feel like TJ and I moved very quickly. Like we moved in together after like 6 months of dating. So I would say like, you know, after like 2 months, he was kind of coming up in conversations I would have with like my boss or like, you know, people on my team. So people kind of figured out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just reflecting on my life.
Yeah, you have your own experience
Yes.
with this, so I'm sure there's some common ground.
Yeah, because I don't even remember what it was like at first, so that's why I was like reflecting. Did you ever find it awkward to talk about it at first, or like you didn't want to bring it up? Is that why it was like 2 months?
Yeah, maybe a little. Yeah. Or just like not wanting to bring it up too early in case like things don't pan out, and like obviously that's a concern, but now it's just like normal.
Speaking of love,
the
Tinder Swindler sure made a lot of women feel like he loved them.
Have you guys watched or not?
I haven't watched it. I do know a little bit of like some stuff that happened, or like a thing that happened after all of that.
Okay. Maybe you know something I don't know, but
possibly. But could you give us like a little bit of the like give us the summary story?
Yes. So basically, it's this guy who comes off as a billionaire to females. So he like has this persona. He's like, oh, I'm this billionaire. He like wines and dines them, like takes them on his private jet, and then basically convinces them that like he's involved. He has like enemies, and he's in danger, and because of like security threats, he has to like stop using his cards and like his bank account and stuff. So then he convinces these females to give him money. So like he kind of like, I think the swindler thing is like he's super, you know, Rico Suave, like come into my private jet, they like latch on, get comfortable with him, and then he's like, okay, now can you take out a loan and like write me a check for like $250,000?
Oh my God.
And these women do it, which is just wild to me. But at the same time, it's like they think he's a billionaire. I don't know.
Yeah, and like
they assume he's gonna pay them back. That's the thing.
And everything he's presenting is
exactly
a billionaire.
Yes. So it really truly like you find out as you meet more women who were involved with him that it like truly is a Ponzi scheme. Like he started with one, and then like once he got that one to a point where she was feeding him money, he would use that money to start like swooning the next one. So he kind of built like this infrastructure that like allowed him to like continually pursue these women and live this like lavish lifestyle.
But and he's referred to as the Tinder Swindler. Is that because he set up all of this through Tinder? Like he met all these women through Tinder?
Yes.
And this occurred in Europe?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Is the show more about telling the stories of people he cheated, or like...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's very much telling the stories of people he cheated. Like you meet them, you know, they're interviewed one-on-one in the documentary, and then he, like, you would think he would be locked up in jail. Like, spoiler alert, he's not. He's still out there, which is just wild. But
not only that, but I just learned that he actually is on Cameo, or was as of like a day ago.
What does that mean?
So Cameo is a website where like celebrities will like have a Cameo profile, and then they'll set like a price, like $200, and if you pay them $200, you'll get a Cameo made where they'll say whatever. So you can like send $200 and say, hey, I want you to wish my wife a happy birthday, and then the celebrity will get on camera and be like, oh, happy birthday, Sarah, and like whatever. And that's what Cameo is. Like celebrities will get little bits of money for like a 20-second video.
Yeah.
He's on Cameo, like selling. I think his rate was $200, and so you could get like a Tinder Swindler Cameo.
Oh my gosh.
Which is so like awful.
Awful.
Like, why are they letting him be on the platform?
No.
Why are people supporting him?
I know. I think people think it's funny. And like I watched it with TJ, and TJ was so fixated on this concept of like, why are these women giving him money? Like, why would they do that? Like, and his point was like, if the person's a billionaire, they're like never gonna ask you for money. Like, a billionaire should not be asking people for money. But at the same time, he just orchestrated this big scheme about how he was in danger, and he would like send pictures of his security guard being like beat up and say like, they're coming for you, like they're coming for us, and all this stuff. It was wild.
I don't think I can blame the victims at all in this case. Like, it's especially when you've got like emotions involved with something. Like, presumably a lot of these women actually loved him.
Yeah. Well, if I thought of him, like, I'm picturing, like, what if it was my boyfriend? Like, and I thought of him exactly how he is today and didn't know that he was, like, some fake guy, then I probably would. Like,
But the good thing about the documentary is that it's getting his name out, or his fake name and his real name, because he has multiple identities and whatnot. So hopefully he won't be able to continue doing it.
Yeah. And as I was like, as you were talking about it, I was thinking about the legal aspects, and I have no legal experience at all, so don't listen to me. But I was just wondering, like, if these people are willingly giving them their money, I feel like there's not a way to, like, get that money back. Like, it wasn't like you signed a contract saying you'll pay me back. But I don't know.
It's, I imagine some of the countries that he operated through would probably have fraud laws that would cover that.
I forgot it wasn't even in the US.
There's like a disclaimer at the end of it that one of the women is like still working on paying back her loans or something.
Oh my God.
And that,
I mean, that's like $250,000. That's a lot of money.
Yeah. And I should add a disclaimer that I don't think my boyfriend TJ is a victim shamer.
No, I don't think
we were just brainstorming the thought process throughout the documentary.
I think, and I do this too. I think it's easy from like an outsider's perspective to kind of think like logically, like obviously I wouldn't do this, but it's like another thing entirely to kind of be in the situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, because at first I was like, it's like ripping off old people. Like, how can they do this? But then, then I had the like rewiring of like, well, if it was my boyfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
So you guys should check it out.
Well, you're kind of making me want to, but I like don't watch TV that much. But so I had one more question. Did he like keep the girls involved continuously while he had other ones, or just cut it off and then move on?
It seemed like there would be a point at which it cut off, because he would get a very big loan, and then he would be like, oh, here's a check, and then the check would never actually like go through. So then it would get to a point where like the women were so fed up that they weren't getting their money that they realized what was going on. So it was kind of like a one-time thing. He would get as much money out of one as he could, and then like move on to the next.
Gotcha.
Sometimes there were like a couple transactions involved, but generally it wouldn't like last for more than like 12 months.
So I'm guessing he was not in any of these episodes, or in the show.
No. Unfortunately,
Yeah, but you could, get a cameo if you want.
True. Go out there.
Could ask him, can you answer these questions for me? I just wonder how like premeditated beforehand it was, or if he was just flying by the seat of his pants. Like, it just worked, so he kept doing it.
Probably at the beginning, a little bit of that.
I don't know how you like get to that point though, where you're like, oh, I'm just gonna fleece this person for $200K.
I know.
Like, I don't know. I wouldn't be able to look at myself in the mirror.
No.
Yeah, but you like crime in general, right?
I do.
Crime shows.
Just crime.
So I think that's something that both you and Elisa have in common.
Yeah.
So,
I just don't like watch shows as much, but like I'm always invested when I hear about crimes. And so like even my favorite shows probably have a crime in it that they're solving. But like, I don't even know how to answer this question. I don't know if you do. Why do you like crime stuff so much? Like,
I don't know.
Why do we get so invested?
And there's like a running joke on my team now at work. It's like, Katie's gonna kill someone someday. Like a joke. But like, I just, every time people are like, well, what are you doing this weekend? Like, what have you been watching on Netflix? It's like always some sort of like serial killer, like murder documentary.
You're like, oh, this weekend I'm sharpening my knife collection.
Oh my gosh.
I feel like it would be the opposite. Like, I feel like I would get so much paranoia around something happening to me. It's like the way I think it would happen.
Yeah, that sometimes does happen, but then there's like, okay, you like surround yourself with good people and you have to trust that. I don't know, but it is, I don't know why I'm interested in it. Maybe it's just like, I think it's just this fixation of like, how can people be like so horrible to like, and then the whole process of like how they go about covering up their tracks and like how it's led to like them being discovered and all that type of stuff. But.
And I think part of it for me is like, I almost like always need closure on something. And so if something is like unsolved, it just like gets me. And I'm like, that's why I think those are my favorite shows or books, because like it keeps me interested the entire time because I need to know the ending. But like also like you said, like I can't imagine how people do things like this. So like, but I don't know. I just want to know the motivations behind their actions. And
I have a hard time. Like one of the podcasts I listen to, it's called The Murder Squad, and it's like two guys that talk about cases that have like gone cold, so like haven't been solved yet. And they try to like recruit like this crew of like people that listen to their documentary to like dive into the details, because there are people out there that really get into that stuff. And that one, like, it is so unsatisfying because they lay out all these details about this crime, and like there's no conclusion.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
Have they ever solved any as a result?
They
of that
have,
podcast?
yeah, and that's what's wild.
That's cool.
So they have a website where they put up like, you know, pictures, images, all the documents related to the case that they have. And these two guys, like one of them, well, both of them, one's like an investigative journalist, the other one was a detective who actually solved like the Golden State Killer case and was involved in that. So they're like high profile. Yeah. So they know what they're doing. But yeah, it's crazy. They just put everything out there that they know, and then they like tell people go investigate.
Yeah. Did you ever follow, like the last thing I followed super intently, it was the Gabby Petito case?
Yeah.
So like that one just, I think it blew up on TikTok, but I feel like obviously people dove into the details like you said, but I still feel like every video I watched was mostly wrong about what happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
About
There's
like these people digging into photos and being like, oh, this happened here, but
a lot of speculation. And that one was interesting because it was happening like pretty much live, like all the speculation. Whereas like a lot of the stuff I watch, you know, it happened like X number of years ago, and you're like rewatching the process of everything. But
do you ever get invested in some of the cases and try to find stuff like on social media?
Not really, no. One recently that I've watched it's a documentary on HBO called The Jinx, and it's about Robert Durst. And he was a suspected serial killer, but this one was very interesting because he agreed to do the documentary. Oh. So he has never been like convicted of his crimes, and he killed multiple people. Like it's pretty obvious, but comes from a family with a lot of money and like somehow has just managed to like get out of all of these killings. So he agreed to do a documentary. The whole thing is footage of them interviewing him. Like he's old. He was old when they filmed it. He's trying to, you know, prove his innocence throughout this documentary. Go watch it. The end scene is incredible, and ultimately, like, provided some evidence that, like, led them to actually convict him.
Oh my gosh.
So he was convicted, and then he recently died. Like, I think in like very recently, a couple months ago, he actually passed away.
That might be why I heard of it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. But yeah, another coworker was the one who actually told me about that one, and I watched it, and I got through it in like 2 days, and it's multiple episodes. It's really good.
So when you're watching like a crime show, crime documentary, internally, like, how are you feeling, or like, can you like notice something about yourself as you're watching it?
Just like it's like a mystery to me. It's like when you're reading like a really good book and you like don't want to put it down. It's that same feeling. It's like,
so you're kind of trying to figure it out.
Yeah, put the pieces together, like, you know, what's going to happen. And I don't know. A lot of times, like, if it's a high profile case, like I know what happens in the end of it. It's just kind of like recapping the process. But yeah, I'm really into like interrogation type stuff too. So a lot of the documentaries contain like footage of them like interrogating the person. And I find that type of stuff really interesting. Like how law enforcement like coerces people into getting confessions and things like that. So there's that like psychological element of it too that I try to like tune into.
Yeah, I think I like that human aspect of it, like how people operate, like how the mind works, and then being able to like get information out of somebody by kind of understanding that.
Yeah, I do love the psychological aspect. Yeah, psychological thrillers are also a fun genre for me.
Speaking of psychology, you know, we're in a profession that I think is overall not super stressful on like the work end of things, but academically, you know, we've got one of, if not the most challenging exam process of any profession. What advice do you have for our listeners and viewers about how to manage that exam stress?
Yeah, that's something that I struggle with, honestly. I feel like the biggest thing for me is like, I have to sit back sometimes and like put things in perspective. Like, I feel like if I sit down and I study for 6 hours, like I leave the room and like everything's tense and I'm all worried. And then I like have to take deep breaths and be like, listen, like, even if you fail this, you have like friends that support you, you have family that supports you. Like, so it's like taking a step back and like reminding myself of like, it's gonna be okay. Yeah, but that's difficult, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like your mind consumes you sometimes of like, this is the most important thing in the world.
And that's like, yeah, I have a problem of like letting those things kind of spiral out of control and like, get super zoned in, and then I'm always thinking super negatively, and then that's why, like, you know, bringing TJ into the picture, he's like a good balancing act in that sense, because he is very laid back and very like, you know, you've put in the work, you've done all you can do, like kind of that nice balance, like.
So does he kind of like talk you down from those heightened states?
Yes.
Is that how it helps?
Yep, exactly.
Is that ever like, does it ever make you more stressed or more intimidated because you're both actuaries and he has such a different mindset and you're like, how? That's
the thing that is challenging. Like, I always assumed like, oh, if I go date someone that's in like a very technical field similar to the field that I'm in, they'll think like me. And then like TJ is like polar opposite. Like, he is not like anxious. He's very laid back. He's super calm. Things come very, very, very naturally to him. So like he has a great work ethic, but like I feel like I have to study like, you know, double or triple what he does. Whether it's because I actually need to or because my mind tells myself that I need to is like a different story. But it's interesting how you can have two people that are like so different that are still in the same profession. Like.
Yeah, and Elisa told me before you got here that there's one time when you, after an exam, you felt so terribly about it, but when you actually got the results, you had scored the absolute highest that you can get on the exam. So, like, what's that about? How does that happen?
I don't know. That's like what drives me crazy about myself. Like, I go into something and I tell myself that like I'm horrible and that I failed, and then it's like you end up passing. And
do you think like sometimes that happens to me because I want myself to think the worst, so that way if something better
I
does
don't
happen.
feel like it's that though. I feel like I
Really?
truly think I do poorly.
Yeah.
Like it is like an internal thing where like I convince myself. And I guess the only way I can describe it is like maybe I feel like sometimes I get too hung up on what I don't understand and forget about what I do understand. Like
Focus on
so
the negatives.
yes, focusing on the negatives. Like there's that element of like pessimism, you know.
Yep.
So I've been trying to be better about that, like flipping the switch in my brain to be like, okay, you don't know this, but you do know all of these things, you know.
So you're able to like recognize that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
and
getting
then-
better at that for sure.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And how, like, you're sitting there, you're thinking, you're kind of ruminating on the negative, and then you sort of realize, oh, I'm doing this thing.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do mentally to, like, actually flip the switch? Like, what is that like? How do you experience that?
I think it's just like I get to a point where I'm like, well, a lot of times it will be someone else like mentioning something, you know, like if TJ can tell that I'm like super down and being negative, he'll be like, but hey, like let's, you know, focus on the positive. So that's helpful. And I feel like that was like a preliminary step. Like that's how I started to be able to recognize
Yeah.
was that like other people would say something and then I would be able to switch the flip. And I feel like now I've just kind of gotten to the point where like, yeah, if I'm thinking super negatively, it's like, okay, Katie, like
Yeah, I feel like
That's nice.
one of the things you said, like, I feel like the first part is recognizing that you are focusing on the negatives, because, like, sometimes you might even not even know. It's just where your mind is. But
And when something like that happens to you where you like feel really bad and then you get the highest score, it's like those types of wins too help you realize, like build up your confidence and things like that.
It kind of, it like decreases the credibility of like the anxious part of the mind. Yeah.
Yeah. And we talk about this a lot, like with coworkers and stuff about like imposter syndrome. Like it carries over into the workplace too, you know, like I'm always like, oh my gosh, my boss like probably doesn't think I understand what I'm doing. Like she probably thinks I'm like such a lousy employee. And then it's like you get one piece of like positive feedback and you're like, okay, reset.
so even when I receive positive feedback, I'll like end the call and be like, did he really mean that?
I
Or is he
know.
just trying to make me feel better? Like
There's those negative thoughts creeping in. It's
exactly.
like,
I think it's part of that for me is like a strive to just do better. But it is like I focus on the negatives. I'm like, but I want to do this better. But I want to do this better.
yeah, it is a tough balance because it's like, I appreciate that side of me because it does push me to have a better work ethic and like it's a motivating thing. So I don't ever want to lose that part of me completely. But at the same time, like there's a point at which it becomes like unhealthy.
Yeah. And I think imposter syndrome is really common in our profession. And I wonder if, you know, as actuaries, we are taught to kind of unwind some of our internal biases and look at situations from multiple angles and kind of you like doubt your own initial response and have to like sit back and think about like, does the data support this? Can I justify this? Have I talked to experts? Like all of that. I'm wondering if there's some aspect of like, I can't trust my gut because I need to support it in other ways.
Yeah, that's an
that kind of like,
Yeah, and I like that thought process. I was even thinking maybe our profession is sort of competitive too, because we have those levels of exams where you're like, oh, you have more exams passed than me, you must be smarter than me. And like, so then you're trying to compete like, no, I can show that I'm smarter than that person. Or like, I just feel like there's a little bit of competitiveness added in when we have like different levels of our profession.
And like expectations by level too. Like I think that's something that my team is working on, like developing out, is like making it less subjective, like listing out like specific things that they expect, you know, someone at one level to be doing that maybe someone at another level couldn't. And I think that will be very helpful for people like me who like, because I just need something like quantitative. I need to like be able to look at a piece of paper and be like, this is what level you should be at. Then it'll, I guess, give me comfort.
It's kind of the way our mind works too. I feel like it's like, what do the numbers say? And like, but that, when you said that, I was like, oh man, that like just increases competitiveness more, right?
True, that's true.
I think that's part of our imposter syndrome. And I think when we look at that, like maybe checklist of what we need to be doing, we'll be like, oh yeah, like I'm doing that.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm fine, yeah.
I don't know why. Yeah, it creeps up on me every single day. Even probably sitting here at this table, I'm like, am I doing a good enough job asking questions? Like, I don't know. And so I think about it every single time. And like every conversation I have with someone, I leave and I'm like, did they feel okay when I said this? And
Elisa, do you, like, as you're going through the editing process, does that help with that, or does that, like, kind of make it worse?
That's a good question. So in a different way than I think you would think, it's helped me get better, but I think it's because I've listened to myself talk so much now. At first it bothered me. I was like, I need to stop doing this or stop saying this, or like I should have asked a different question here or made them feel more comfortable when I said this. And now I think I've just kind of ignored it because I'm so used to hearing how I talk, and I don't know if I've really changed it. So now I'm so used to it that it kind of like just goes through me. And so now I would need someone else to almost say like, hey, what about this? Because I've gotten so used to it. So I don't think it's actually helped my thoughts like after the podcast. I think I'm still always like a little nervous, but I just kind of ignore it when I'm editing now.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely still times I say, but yeah, a lot when I'm done like saying a sentence. And so I still like almost always try to cut those out during editing, but I'm so used to being like, oh, yep, I did it again, delete.
But yeah. So, exam stress, imposter syndrome, do these things impact your life in any way? Like, my own experience of these things can cause some like sleep disruption, for instance. So like how do you experience like the fallout from those things?
Yeah, surprisingly, I sleep so well. You wouldn't think I do, but I have never had an issue sleeping. Like the second my head hits the pillow, I fall asleep. But I do feel like I manifest my anxiety in like relationships with others. Like, TJ always comments on how like the months before an exam, like I am like much, he enjoys being around me less than like other times of the year, because I feel like I project my anxiety. Like whether it's like hurrying around the kitchen and like trying to clean things up, like I just make it more obvious when I am feeling that stress. So I do think it like manifests on relationships with others, which I try to be cognizant of. Yeah.
I'd feel that.
Yeah.
I feel like I just have bad days sometimes, and I just say it. I'm like, sorry, not feeling great today. I might be a little iffy on my reactions towards you.
Yeah, it's like I've got like a certain amount of capacity for stressors. So like, if I have something going on that I'm just like hanging on to as like anxiety, then I've only got like a little bit of wiggle room. And if something like exceeds that, it's like, now I'm grumpy. But like when I'm able to like manage the anxiety well, then like my threshold's just a lot higher.
Do you ever notice, like I notice it on my like physical well-being too. Do you ever notice that?
Yeah.
I don't know if other people do.
Yeah, like tension for sure. Like,
yeah, that's and like when I'm stressed, my eyes get very baggy, and I'm just like shocked after I take an exam about how much better my face looks. And I'm just like, whoa, like the stress really like took out. It might be sleep too. And the first FSA exam I ever took, those were my first gray hairs. I think stress actually got to me. I don't think I really got any more because I got used to like what it felt like, and I got less stress as I went on. But that first one, yeah, my hairs were like 10 of them popped out at least.
I feel like I have like wrinkles because my brows are like furrowed so much like while I'm studying and like pondering things. That's one physical thing I noticed.
Imagine when you're older telling your grandkids, this is from this exam.
I know. I need to start wrinkle cream at 26.
Do you get, like, I guess your sleep is kind of like a physical.
Sleep is the big one for me.
Yeah.
Definitely. I've been, not to continue harping on meditation, but meditation's been like a big improvement to my ability to fall asleep.
Oh.
So I still, like, if I'm stressed, I'll still like wake up more often, but at least I've been able to like shorten the time that it takes for me to fall asleep from like an hour and a half to 2 hours to like 10 to 20 minutes.
And sometimes you kind of said like relationships with people, and even like sometimes I like have to weigh the option of like, okay, I'm very stressed out right now. I need, like, telling myself I need to keep studying, but like people are gonna do something tonight, and I was like, then I weigh the options of like, should I really study more and think I'll like have a higher chance of passing if I spend 4 more hours studying tonight, or do I need a break, or like, do I not want to waste this part of my life? Sometimes I choose to study, but
Yeah, I feel like I normally do, and sometimes I'm like, maybe I shouldn't. But the hard part about that anxiety is like, if you, at least for me, if I do go do the other thing, I cannot enjoy the other thing because my brain is constantly reminding myself that like I should be studying.
Well, like the other thing kind of offsetting it is like, well, I could have time to spend with people now, but like, don't I just want to get the exam over with so then I can have as much time as I want with people? But it's so hard.
It is hard.
So, is there anything else that you wanted to discuss?
I don't think so.
That's great.
We wanted to end it there.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm really glad that we were able to bring you onto the podcast.
Thank
It's
you
been
for
a real
having me.
treat.
It was fun.
Enjoyed it.
All right. Bye, everyone.